Supreme Court on Friday refused to entertain a PIL against the practice of charging an additional fee for VIP darshan and also the according of preferential, selective and special treatment to a certain class of people in temples. Now, a bench comprising Chief Justice Sanjeev Khanna and Justice Sanjay Kumar has said that it was for the society and temple management to decide the issue and the court cannot pass any directions. VIP culture destroys equality enshrined in the constitution. Should temple authorities themselves not take a call against this? But what if one wants a quick, seamless darshan and is not averse to paying extra? Should that be allowed? Does VIP culture in temples violate our constitutional principles? This is what we discuss tonight. We have with us Rahul Ishwar, who's an activist. We also have Akash Vashishta, who's a petitioner in this case. Thank you, both of you, for joining me on this show. To you, Mr. Vashishta, first of all, thank you so much. Tell us, sir, what was the crux of your petition? Because I completely agree that this is one thing that the court should have intervened in, because there is a certain sense of distinction, divide that VIP culture creates amongst devotees, and also the kind of suffering that pilgrims have to go through because there's a VIP culture that's that's in implementation, because VIPs get quicker darshan, they also get other facilities which a common person does not. So what was the crux of your petition? Why did you why were you the counsel for this case, and are you disappointed with what the court said today?
Yes, Vasudha, I am representing the petitioner, who is Vijay Kishore Goswami. He is a Sevayat in one of the most prominent temples in Vrindavan, which is Radha Madan Mohan Mandir, and that's one of the sub devalayas in ASI protected temple. So that's there. Now, what we raised was that we had moved this petition against the very discriminatory, arbitrary, and perverse practice of according privileged, preferential and selective treatment to a class of persons from among similarly placed persons by way of paying extra charges called as VIP charges, when the VIP itself is completely undefined in law. So as a consequence, what happens is, across the temples in the country, some of the biggest temples in the country are imposing such kind of VIP charges, which are completely, as I said, not only discriminatory but derogatory also. They shake the dignity of an individual who come to the temple, and temples are the first places, they are the first rather public places where a citizen or an individual acquires spiritual learning. Right. Now, if such a kind of culture is to be seen in such at such places of sanctity, then it's very difficult to imagine what would happen in other places. Now, what we, through the petition, we had raised the issue of this whole issue of being a select class of people being allowed inside the temple, which is completely violative of Articles 14, Article 21 and Article 25 of the Constitution. Right. We told the court that, yes, apart from various directive principles under which the state is actually duty bound to completely reduce or minimize the inequalities in the status, in opportunities, etc., that is something the state was not doing. And of course, there had been a number of judgments of the Supreme Court itself, right, which lay a completely, a society full of equality. Absolutely. And this is a negative discrimination. Right.
Rahul Ishwar, many have believed that it is not for the courts to take decisions on matters of belief and customs. And I'm sure, like, I've followed your voice also during the Sabarimala episode. A section of voices and opinions cannot weigh over people running a certain temple, managing its affairs. So if you see the plea, and like Mr. Vashishta also explained, it says when you have a special darshan, you also create divisions amongst people. People have to wait for longer hours. VIPs also get quicker darshan to the Sannidhi, and ordinary devotees are, they have to endure all this pushing and shoving around. So what is your understanding of this? Because in 2022, the Madras High Court also said that temple administration is duty bound to ensure that VIP darshan is provided without causing any inconvenience to people. In fact, there's a list of VIPs that is notified by certain governments, and that list of VIPs should be maintained by temple administration. So there's a commercial aspect to this, and also there is an integrity aspect to this. Our temples cannot be seen as any other place, a tourist place, isn't it?
Sudhaji, two submissions. First of all, I agree with the sentiments of Akash ji in a theoretical manner. But when it comes to practicality, there are a lot of challenges. For example, when a High Court judge comes, when a Supreme Court judge comes, when people of big industrialists or movie stars comes, security becomes a huge issue. So we have to take care of their security too. As a devotee, I totally agree with the sentiments. But as a person who has been part of many temple management, I understand the practical on-ground difficulties that a temple management really suffers. And please remember, Article 25 and 26 categorically says each faith has their own right to administer and run the affairs of the temples. I would respectfully disagree with Akash ji on one point, that temple is not a public place. Temple is the house of the deity. Temple is the house of the deity managed by temple administration and devotees. So it is not a public place and all the public rules cannot be applied there. It is a place open for public for sure, but it is a private place of the deity and the devotees. And there are a lot of practical difficulties we will have to take into account when foreign dignitaries come, so many other people are coming. That's the reason why something like a VVIP Darshan or a VIP Darshan or a special queue, if you want to name it something else, we can do that. That naming part can be done. But some kind of arrangement and adjustment in temples are needed for the smooth functioning. I know I don't sound very, egalitarian. I know I may not sound modern and progressive. But when you look at the practical aspects of it, when hundreds, thousands and millions of people come in, and when some important people who needs to be having security comes in, we need to balance the priority.
Right.
Otherwise, if something happens to them, who will be responsible?
Right. Mr. Vashish, that's a very good point that Rahul is raising. Are we missing the reality for this? Because classes do exist, sir. And while constitutional authorities are one thing, the fact that there is also this reality of misuse of passes. I know so many of, us who keep asking, people that we know, powerful people that we know, let's, help me get a darshan of Vaishno Devi or Tirupati. So do you think that is something, there could be a balance between, ensuring that there are certain VIP darshans that are allowed, so that there's also a commercial aspect that's taken care of. But of course, the fact that people don't have to suffer.
In fact, this petition completely excludes that class, those dignitaries with official protocols and persons with of course constitutional positions. So this petition completely carves out an exception for those classes. But what is happening, let me tell you, across the country, in most of the temples, whether it's the Shakti Peeths or whether it's the Jyotirlings, they are creating a class from similarly placed persons. You pay, they are charging 400, anything between 400 to maybe 1,500 or 2,000. So that is being charged not from the people with protocols or persons with constitutional positions, but from ordinary class of people. So this is something we told the court, that this economic criterion cannot be the sole determinant for allowing a selective and preferential entry to people. So of course, because you would be aware that there are elderlies, there are women, there are pregnant women, then there are of course differently abled people. All those people actually are the ones who deserve these kind of entry, and unfortunately that system, that mechanism, those opportunities, those facilities are completely missing from most of the temples. And today it's, as I said, it's the Shakti Peeths, the Jyotirlings and some of the other big temples. Now seeing those temples, the other temples which are witnessing heavy footfalls, they are also adopting similar practice, and that is what precisely is the concern.
Right. Rahul Ishwar, do you think the court did the right thing by not wading into this controversy? Because I do personally believe that, every time we have to go to a temple, we always look for people who will sort of arrange darshan for us. Not everybody can sort of, afford that. So clearly, temple boards should also be, as custodians of faith, as managers of, our worship places, shouldn't they be also putting in place which, facilities that can, ensure equitable access, equitable worship for all? Because we've seen videos of, common devotees being pushed and shoved, while there are VIPs who get longer time to have darshan of the Lord.
I mean, let me be very honest, this is a very serious issue that needs to be acknowledged. Even though there are practical difficulties, like earlier Vasudha ma'am said, the right thing is finding a balance. finding a balance between managing this and finding a balance between allowing this. And temples are also establishments, if I can use that word. Temples do also need money. Temples do also need resources to run. So, and these resources are mainly used for charity, getting to other temples, or devotee welfare and all these things. So please understand that there are some pragmatic difficulties. We all believe in the deity, we all believe in the God, but when it comes to practical terms, there are certain realities that we have to be mindful of. So the only humble submission is these all guidelines can be in an advisory form. You can advise, you can recommend, you can suggest, and I definitely hope more and more temples will take it up. But when it comes to practicality, Supreme Court did the right thing by not intervening and interjecting, because then it would have been a violation of Article 25 and 26, which also is a fundamental right, which gives the right to the temple's church or mosque or any religious institution to run the affairs according to their preference. So we need to strike a balance. Article 14 is of so sacrosanct, but Article 25 and 26 are also there. We need to be mindful and we need to find a balance between these two fundamental rights.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rahul Ishwar, and thank you, Mr. Vashisht, for joining us on this discussion. Religious places should be seen as symbols of equality. When someone is granted special privileges or given the status of a VIP or a VVIP and somebody is not a constitutional authority, it clearly is an insult to the idea of equality. But does VIP culture in temples or the act of special passes undermine equality and make it better for certain devotees? Well, the Supreme Court has refused to instruct temples on this matter. But will temple boards act on their own is the big question that we ask.